Hey y'all, it's Chimdi. Okay, so this topic, I'm gonna be honest, it scares me a little bit because there is there are many YouTube worlds and realms and universes where the energy is very intense. And when I say intense, I mean toxic, but I don't want to be judgmental. So I just want to say intense, you know? And I think there are a lot of YouTube worlds and realms where people really want to fight. Like they really want to scrap. They want to scrap in the comments. They have very strong opinions, very strong thoughts. And if you delve into that world, and if you delve into topics and videos that are tapped into that conversation, tapped into that frequency, it means you're gonna get really intense, and by intense I mean hateful comments. And as someone who just has a sensitive heart, I really actively try not to live in a way that would bring me negativity. And I think a lot of people are like that, right? Where they're like people pleasers and not trying to offend anybody, not trying to hurt anyone's feelings. And so they kind of go out of their way to stay quiet on things that they know might bring strong opinions. And I can relate, because I think I am in fact one of those people. And for the most part, I talk about this a lot. Like, I feel like my comment section on YouTube is wonderful. And I think part of it is because I really stay away from topics that I think are controversial. And I did this brain dump last night of like all these potential YouTube ideas. And one of them was actually inspired by a conversation I had with a friend. And she asked me if I considered myself feminine, if I considered myself to be feminine. And it was a part of a larger conversation around, what femininity means, and about, some of the different rules and things that we have around it. And in response, I actually referenced something that I think my cousin said about me, or someone said about me after I went to London and I was a bridesmaid in her wedding, and I like posted this Instagram reel that's me just like strutting in my like tight pink bridesmaid dress, just like fanning myself, just feeling myself. And I think she commented that I was unapologetically feminine. And that wasn't a identity or a framework I had towards my own life. And but I thought it was great, and I was like, seems right. I certainly don't apologize for being feminine. So I was like, okay. And I also feel like I have like a short haircut, and I know I made a video about not smoking weed anymore that went viral. And for the most part, the content, like the comments, were focused on smoking and weed and quitting and all that stuff. But there were comments, so the negative comments did sort of focus on my femininity and did try to I think they tried to hurt me by saying that I wasn't feminine because of my haircut and my look at the time, which is really interesting, right? And so I just know it's a topic that's really alive for people. The Barbie movie just came out, and that's all about, gender norms and roles and all these things. And so I thought it'd be an interesting thing to wade into it. And the reason why it feels controversial for me is because I feel like my point of view, I think it's because I have a strong point of view, and it's specifically around the term or that phrase, like high value men and women. And so for me, I don't know how y'all are on the internet, but for me, there are certain like keywords and phrases that I know are code for a certain kind of worldview that I know already isn't in alignment with me. And so when I hear someone just drop that phrase or reference it, like part of me, like, it's just a red flag. And I'm like, okay, this person is in a different part of the internet that I'm in and has a different worldview than I have. And really what it means is like, I am not safe with this person. Because I think when I think of those phrases of like high value men and women, what I hear is like people have a value that we can judge them by. Some people are high value and some people are low value. And so I think when we look at like our world and some of the challenges we face, it comes down to thinking some people are better than other people. Some people deserve things that other people don't. Some people should get rights and other people shouldn't get rights, you know? Like all these really, you know, basic ways of othering people and saying, I'm gonna treat you right because you look like me, act like me, talk like me. I'm gonna treat you a certain way because you don't. And that's right. You know, like that's fair and that's good and that's fine. And so I think inherent in the phrasing of high value men and women is this idea of like this kind of person, if they act in this kind of way, say these kinds of things, believe these sorts of things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they have a high value. They are therefore attractive, desirable, deserving of whatever it is that they have or want. People who do not fit this standard are not. And I think that's just super harmful and super scary because as a Black woman, I know that any kind of categorization that says certain people deserve certain things and other people don't, I know I have multiple identities that would be in the other category that would then cut me off from receiving certain benefits in society. And so whenever I see any of that language, it just is a red flag for me because I know it means this is someone who is susceptible to this kind of thinking that I believe would ultimately harm me. And I feel this is like also a heavier topic in general than what I talk about on my YouTube channel because I do like my YouTube channel to be a place of like chuckles, you know, chuckles and joy and healing and all these things. And I think if we are connected to ourselves and connected to our healing and our growth, it means that we are willing to be with some of the more painful things in our life, with some of the things that are harder and some of the conversations that are tougher, because these are the things that are standing in our way. These are the things that we are perhaps unconsciously attached to, and it's only the process of letting go that allows us to sort of reconnect to our innate worthiness and value and love and glory and all of these things. And I also want to name that I truly have not done any research. Like, I think it's really important. Anyone who subscribes to me, hopefully, anyone who's watched a handful of my videos should know that I operate on vibes, okay? I don't operate on research. I love to read a book and I love to reference something I read in the book, but when it comes to some of these other things, I'm not doing research. So I didn't like go out and watch a bunch of videos from people who have or use that high value men and women terminology. And I want to note that that speaks to my own bias because they could very well not be espousing any of these things that I think, right? They could be actually in full agreement with me about like being a high value man or woman actually has to do with honoring yourself and loving yourself and like caring about other people and like, you know, being kind and compassionate and like, you know, doing work that is really inspiring to you and, you know, giving back to your community. Like those could be the things they're saying about what it means to be high value. And it could just be that my own fear of hearing them say something that would be hurtful to me is so high that I'm like, I'm not even gonna risk it, you know? And I think for me, that's part of my journey is, you know, there's lots of things that I just shut out and cut out and say, no, not for me, because of what I assume, you know, I'm going to experience. And actually there's a whole world of content, of people, of experiences, of places that maybe I'd actually love and get a lot of value from if I only gave myself the chance to interact with that content. But I think because so much of it, like, I don't know Kevin Samuels, I don't know if he's the one who passed away, but I think because so much of the language, it seemed to be from like men telling women what they needed to do or how they needed to be different in order to get a man. I was just like, oh, it's not for me, you know? And I think there's also a beauty in knowing right away and knowing intuitively, you know what? This is not for me. So instead of watching this content, getting my feelings hurt, getting mad, I'm just gonna not engage. And that's okay, you know? So, and that's, like I said, part of my work is to let myself fully accept that I don't have to be in every conversation. I don't have to have an opinion about everything. I don't have to want to save people who I feel are caught up in a narrative or a conversation that's just causing them suffering. Like, that's their business, you know? And truly being okay with letting people live the way they want to live. Let them be on the internet the way they want to be on the internet. Let them leave comments the way they want to leave comments. And I think for me, as someone who just values joy and peace, to me, like, seeing people that I love and care about get caught up in their anger and in their hurt around some of these dialogues, it just is like, it's like painful because I care about them and I don't want them to be suffering, right? So yeah, I just want to share my 2 cents on this topic. And I'm also kind of curious to see my hypothesis is that by even engaging in this content, I'm like asking for a bunch of negativity, right? And so what I'm curious to see with this video is, does just this terminology of like high value men and women, does just that terminology like hit a chord for people that kind of makes them reactionary so that they do just start like posting negativity? Or is that just a belief system I had that actually isn't true? Because I think, like, I know there are topics that are of interest to people that would support the growth of my YouTube channel that I could talk about, but I don't because I'm scared. And so I think I'm also looking to sort of test the waters of my own fear and of my own like growing edge, you know, to see like, okay, Chimdi, there's a whole world of things you could hopefully share something really meaningful about, but you don't because you're scared of being attacked on the internet. Let's see if that's true. Let's actually test this as a hypothesis and not just assume it and cut yourself off from YouTube growth, from really like interesting dialogues in the comments, from really interesting people who could find your channel, etc., etc., etc. So let's see. This video is a test. Also, like, people could just not care. Like, that's also something for me to realize. People could also be like, I actually don't really care. That topic was hot 6 months ago. I've moved on. We've moved on as a culture, you know? Like, so I also want to name and acknowledge that there's a broad spectrum of ways that folks could react to this video and to this topic, all the way from like, I'm so angry, I'm gonna call you a bunch of like racial slurs and give you a bunch of misogynoir in your comments, to like, oh, I don't care about this. And so I'm not even going to click. So YouTube is fun to test things, and this is me testing something. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments how you engage with this idea of being high value, of what it means to it's just so uncomfortable for me, y'all. Like, it really is just like, oh, but like, let me know. Thank you, Patreon people, for your support. I appreciate y'all. And thank you, subscribers, for hanging out with me every single week. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Okay.